Welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk about the Buffalo Sabres. And, the Buffalo Sabres missing the playoffs, it's been a thing for now 13 seasons. The longest playoff drought in the history of the National Hockey League. Now, as I've said in other videos, I do think that we're going to see longer and longer playoff droughts for teams because only half the league makes the playoffs now. There are good teams that missed the playoffs, and last season, Buffalo was one of the good teams that missed the playoffs. They barely missed the playoffs. This year, not the same story. So the East, the teams that ended up making the playoffs at the last week there in the East, I think the first round showed. I think mediocre's overstating it, but clearly they were overmatched by Carolina and the New York Rangers in that first round. You have to wonder if Buffalo was a team that got in instead, would it have been a different story? And we'll never know. But we may find out next year if Buffalo can make the playoffs. And while the idea of Buffalo making the playoffs will lead to laughter and guffaws, and clearly the fan attendance in Buffalo being as low as it is has shown that fan apathy is at a high in Buffalo. Last season, I talked often about how this team was exciting. They looked really good. This team's on their way up. They're going to be a good team. Then this year happened, and I didn't make that argument at all this year. I didn't even try. This was a team that just never seemed to quite get it together. And then there was a little bit of fool's gold at the end of the year, which turned out to not lead to a playoff appearance for the Buffalo Sabres. So their overall record this year 39, 37, and 6, 84 points, which is 7 points less than last year. If they put up the 91 points like last season, we might be talking about a very, very different situation with the Buffalo Sabres. But the Buffalo Sabres still ended up missing the playoffs again. They make a change behind the bench. Lindy Ruff is back. There's some who love that idea. There are some that hate that idea. The reality is, Lindy Ruff is going to need to work some magic here to make this work. The thing is, with the right moves in the offseason by Kevin Adams, this team should be a playoff team. And I say should because there's so many good young players on this team. It's still an exciting roster. It's still a team that I have some optimism for, but after watching them drop the ball this season, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to get there. So their draft lottery odds are thus: 3% chance they draft first, 3.2% chance they draft second, a 0.1% chance they draft third. So very unlikely they win the draft lottery. I'd be happy if they did, though. I think it'd be great if Buffalo got number one overall, just to watch people twist themselves in circles to try to make it sound like that was a fixed result. So 11th place, there's a 79.9% chance they draft 11th, a 13.4% chance they draft 12th, a 0.5% chance they draft 13th. So there are going to be Buffalo fans watching this going, so we're going to draft 13th. Cool, cool. But the reality is this is a team that's very, very likely to end up drafting 11th overall. That's not going to get you immediate help. Does the GM look to maybe move that pick when we get there? We'll see. Because, again, Buffalo's got a lot of good, really young players on this roster. I don't know that they need that draft pick as much as they need a veteran. They need some veteran help both up front and on the blue line. And just, to have that solid goaltending all season that they haven't really had either. So notable on the record, they were 15, 19, and 4 on December 31st. This was a team that needed to have a really good November, December, and it didn't happen. This is a team that was winning just enough games to stay mathematically in the hunt, but losing enough games to make sure they never had much of a chance of finishing above the playoff line. So when we look at this team's top three scorers, you've got Alex Tuch led the way, 75 games, 22 goals, 37 assists, 59 points. However, in terms of points per game, that's a drop from last year for Tuch. Darlene, 81 games, 20 goals, 39 assists, 59 points. Darlene was very good. Points total ends up being good. 20 goals is fine. The one thing, too, going back to Tuch is I did say before the season he was one that I picked that I thought had too many points last year. But while I thought his points per game would drop, I thought there would be more goals and points coming from some of the younger players than what we got. And Tage Thompson's setback this year, it ends up being a decent year for him with 29 goals because he had a strong finish, but at points this season, he just didn't look the same. Now, he did miss time with injury. He only played 71 games. With those 29 goals, he had 27 assists for 56 points. So your top three scorers for Buffalo, consistent with a team that misses the playoffs. They didn't have a 60-point producer. Peterka, though, had himself quite the year, and this is your 22 and under. Like I said, this is a young roster. Peterka played all 82 games, 28 goals, 22 assists, 50 points. I think J.J. Peterka showed that 30 goals are in the offing next year, and he's got a tremendous future. Dylan Cousins had a bit of a setback this year from last year. 79 games, 18 goals, 29 assists, 47 points. But again, he's young. I do foresee a bounce back. Owen Power, I thought, had a decent season. 76 games, 6 goals, 27 assists, 33 points. I don't think Owen Power is ever going to score like Darlene will, but Power is a really solid two-way defenseman. And yeah, I thought he had good stretches this season. Benson, impressed. 71 games, 11 goals, 19 assists, 30 points. I think Benson could double that next year. With this 1 year of experience, obviously not in the running for the Calder with that 1 year, but I do think he could double those points totals next year. They missed Jack Quinn. We're talking about the offense that was 22nd in goal scoring, which is down from 3rd last year. So last year, they were 3rd in scoring. This year, 22nd. Losing Quinn definitely was part of that. In 27 games, 9 goals, 10 assists, 19 points. So when he was in the lineup, he produced really well. Bowen Byram was a solid addition. After arriving from Colorado, 18 games, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. So while Casey Middlestad's having quite the run for for Colorado right now in the playoffs, Calgary's not even in the playoffs, not sure why I'd say Calgary, but Middlestad, really, really good. I guess because the Flames magnet's right next to Byram. Sure, I'll go with that. But while Middlestad's having that good run in the playoffs, I don't think as a Sabres fan you have to go, oh, that one got away, because Byram looks like the real deal. So you've got Byram, you've got Power, and you've got Darlene. That's an excellent, very young defense. And that's the one thing I talked about with New Jersey yesterday was the youth on the defense. The youth on the defense here is quite stark. Ryan Johnson, 41 games, 7 assists. Kulik, no points in the 1 game he played. Rosane, 7 games, no points for him. Savoy just made the 1 appearance this year. Matthew Savoy should be in the lineup more next year. He had 0 points in the game he played. But this brings up another interesting point. There's a lot of really good young players here, a lot of good forwards. So could they take one of those good young forwards and trade him out to help on the blue line or in net? Now, I say in net because you've got Lucan and you've got Levi, but it does feel like they need that veteran presence in net. And Comrie's probably going to end up exiting the team. So Luukkonen, 27, 22, and 4 with a .910 save percentage, and after January the 1st had some of the best numbers of any goaltender in the National Hockey League. And then there's Devin Levi, 10, 8, and 2 with an .899 save percentage. Levi finished the season in the AHL, but the future's really bright with these two goaltenders. Do they go with both of them as 1A, 1B? Do you bring in a third goaltender, a veteran, like, for instance, like a Jake Allen type, what are they going to do? And that'll be an interesting storyline to watch with them over the summer. In terms of on the way, so, young player on the way up, Noah Ostlund to me stands out as one who's probably going to come up and play with them soon. I'm not sure exactly what line, because, again, there's so many good young forwards here. You may have 3 scoring lines for Buffalo. I can't see them being 22nd in goals for. The interesting thing being goals allowed. They were actually 11th. That run by Luukkonen helps get them almost into the top 10 in goals against. If they can get the goal scoring back up, this is a team that could very well end up in the playoffs. But again, I don't want to get really, really optimistic and believe in this team, because it didn't work last time. So their pending UFA list, Olofsson probably going to market. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't. I'd be surprised if they didn't bring back Gergensons, to be honest. I think Gergensons has been very good for them throughout his career. Jost, probably gone. Robinson, probably gone as well. If they decide to bring him back, it's not an expensive contract. And Comrie, again, I think a bit of an up and down year for him, but his stats definitely beneath those of Luukkonen and Levi. And I say up and down because Comrie towards the end of the year looked better than he did earlier in the year. I know his overall stats weren't very good, but we'll see what happens with him this summer. Pending restricted free agents, not a ton of money to worry about here. Peyton Krebs, another good young forward. Again, if I didn't make the cutoff 22 and I made the cutoff 24, this list would be a lot longer. But Krebs, a restricted free agent. Yoki Harju, restricted free agent as well. Bryson, Clegg, Luukkonen. Luukkonen's the big one, of course. How much money does Luukkonen get for how long? And Riley Stillman, who's been in the minors, do they qualify him, or do they just let him go to the free market as an unrestricted free agent? This is a team that does have some cap space on July the 1st, $23,218,930, according to Cap Friendly. Again, that's going to get eaten into by the contracts for Krebs, Luukkonen, Jokiharju. However, outside of Luukkonen, I don't think there's anybody who's going to be getting major money in these deals. And so they're definitely going to have the space to bring in a veteran, maybe a veteran forward and a veteran blue liner, because I feel like that's some of what's needed. When things started going in the wrong direction for Buffalo, they just didn't seem to have the voices in the room to turn it around. At the very least, that's how things looked out there, but we'll see if things change in the offseason. One positive, and I know this might ring hollow to Buffalo fans, but this is the first time that they've had plus 500, so winning records. And I know people are going to say, well, they won less than half their games, so how can it be a winning record? Points-wise, it's a winning record. Plus 500 is the first time they've had back-to-back seasons at that mark since 2011, 2012, and 2012, 2013. So it's been a while. Buffalo very slowly building themselves back to respectability, but in order to really and truly achieve respectability, they have to make the playoffs. They absolutely have to. There's no way around it. And again, they missed the playoffs by 1 point last year. They were third in goal scoring. It looked like their future was really bright. I think the future is still bright, but last season didn't turn out in their favor. They are the youngest team in the NHL. I did look this up a few different sources because, of course, rosters change throughout the season, but pretty uniform that, yeah, Buffalo Sabres, the youngest roster in the league. Columbus was right there with them, so by the end of the year, I think Columbus had the youngest roster on the closing night of the season, but either way, Buffalo, very young team, and that is part of the storyline with them, right? And so one thing that's going to be talked about a lot until Patrick Kane either signs an extension with Detroit or goes somewhere else, is this the best landing spot for Patrick Kane in the offseason should he decide not to go back to Detroit? My answer to that would be yes. My answer to that would be yes, because they have the cap space. They need a veteran. Patrick Kane showed this year for Detroit he can still play in the NHL, and if he's with the team right from training camp right through to the end of the year, maybe he can make that big difference. It is going to be a tough road, though, for them, and I think the Sabres know this. But again, the future's bright. It's a matter of taking that future and what it is and molding it into a pretty good present. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Will Buffalo end the drought next year, or is it just destined to go on forever? This team will never make the playoffs again, kind of thing. I can't see that. I am wearing the goat head. I did use the goat head logo because I know it's a buffalo. The reference is goat head. That's what we always used to call it. Many people still do. But yeah, I do like that logo. I don't think they ever switch back to it full time, but I thought I'd use it for this video. Same as I use the old skate logo for the Canucks. I'm old. I like the old logos. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.